Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to Daily Wolves. Today is the crossover episode and we have a full house. My name's Nathan and I'm your host for today. And in the I'll start with the home dugout. I know courtesies go to the away dugout, but times are tough at the bottom of the table at the minute. And in the home dugout with me, we have Chris. Chris, how are you doing this evening?
Hey Nathan, hey everyone. Yeah, it'll be happy Thursday to everyone listening to it. So happy Thursday.
And in the away dugout, we have Greg and Zak. Greg, I'll start with yourself. How have you found the season so far? How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's all right. To follow the sentiments, happy Thursday. Everyone's favourite day of the week, crossover Thursday, right? So, the season, we're in high spirits at the moment. Big win at the weekend from us, beating Everton, sort of sneaking past them, and hoping that's going to kickstart the season slightly better than the rest of the start's been. But yeah, I think we're feeling a bit more optimistic now we've got that under our belts.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear some of us are. And Zak, how about yourself? How have you found the season so far?
I think the start of the season's been about how I expected, to be perfectly honest. I'd have liked to have seen another win or so, but we're very much a team that, because we had a quote unquote established Premier League history, a lot of our fan base have very much come back into the season being like, well, we can take points here, and here. Greg 100% being one of those people, and I'm like,
us to finish 12th.
Yeah, which is mad. Whereas I'm like, you can't say that. Like, I'm kind of dreading playing you guys because you guys have been like one of our bogey teams for a long time now. I don't think we've even won against you in a long while in the Premier League, at least. So less optimistic than Greg, but enjoying the ride, I guess. I'm just really glad I got the podcast to do, because if not, I think I probably would have turned off by now.
Yeah. I think there's a similar balance going on in the Wolves dugouts as well. We've got Chris, who started off the season. I say started off the season really positively, because recently it's been we've taken a little bit of a hit, haven't we, with Chris on the whole energy front.
Yeah, I've been here since the beginning, and I was Mr. Positive. I was excited for the season. We've got arguably some really strong players in our squad, and the potential, even with a couple of departures in the summer, was we could kick on from last season and be pushing mid-table and up. Because without last season, we were pushing for 7th or 6th at one point, and then all the injuries decimated that last run in, and then it's just all gone tits up, quite frankly. And so this is not, I would presume that you guys didn't expect us to be down there with you at this point in the season it's been a nightmare, and I am no longer Mr. Optimism.
It looks like it's definitely been tough for you guys, but you've had quite a rough run of fixtures, right? Like, it's not been, you only had a couple of games that you would have really expected to push on and get something from, right? Because you've played a lot of the big boys already.
Yeah, you say that. Last season, because it's getting quite pedantic now. Everyone's looking back through our history last season, because it's been a long time without a win. And we took, a lot more points off those teams last season than we did this, even with the tough start. We did have the toughest start in the league, with the likes of, we've played the top 6 in the first 8 games or something. So we've played Arsenal on opening day, we've played Liverpool, we've played Chelsea, we've played Man City. Like, we've literally played all the big guns pretty much back to back. And so we're, on the back foot to start. But last season, we beat Man City, we beat Tottenham at home. We were getting points from these teams, and we in seasons previous as well. So, and yet there's a feeling that we're very much treating ourselves as the underdog at the moment.
Yeah, there's a sinking feeling about us at the minute, and it's not a good one.
What is it that's going wrong for you guys? Is it just the injuries? Is it the manager?
I think
it'd be nice to have a controversial talk about a manager that's not ours.
Greed, mate.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things. It probably stems from the summer, where there was a little bit of bad recruitment, or at least now we're finding out that there's bad recruitment. We're relying on only having 4 senior centre backs ready to start Premier League games, and then one of them gets injured right at the beginning of the season, does his ACL and meniscus, and that was Mascara. And so that restricts you from a formation perspective, and Gary O'Neill's mentioned that a few times. But then we're just conceding goals for fun. we are conceding goals. 27 goals conceded in 10 games. I think I've said it on every podcast now for the past a few days, and that's just a crazy stat, and it just can't go on like that. We've spoken mainly about set pieces in our previous ones as being our big weakness defensively, but obviously there's more than just that.
But the weirdest thing is we're scoring, but we have to score like 3 to win a game, because we've scored, is it 14 or 15 goals already this season?
14, yeah.
And every goal we score is pretty much a beautiful goal. Like, they're not, tap-ins. They are well-worked team goals that play through the entire pitch normally and then finish in a beautiful, moment. And it's like, it's all beautiful and going forward in that direction. And then at the back, and in open play defensively, again, we're arguably not that bad. It is literally set pieces. Pretty much, I think probably half of the goals against us have been scored by central defenders from the second phase of a set piece. That's pretty much how it's gone. So,
that sounds like it's going to play greatly to our strengths, because our strikers can't score for Tottenham.
Yeah, that's very true, mate. Isn't it? Like, we've had Sugawara score. Taylor Harwood-Bellis is like our top scorer, who is one of our centre backs, and that is been from dodgy set pieces. But like, to be fair, like, we've been on the end of really, really bad set piece defending the entirety of the season. Like, we've had, after every sort of loss we've had so far, it's been very much sort of like, well, if they just stuck a guy on the edge of the box, maybe it wouldn't have rolled in. But I think we have similar problems where the only way we're ever going to win is by usually outscoring people. I think it was really surprising to both of us how the Everton game played out, Greg, right? Because the City game, was felt more narrow than it should have been. But every other game, like when we were 2-0 up against Leicester, that was just a simple fact of like, oh right, we're so open at the back, we concede for fun as well. We very much are in a. It's going to be weird seeing like two teams go against each other. Which one's going to crack first? Maybe we'll end up with like 5 goals apiece. That'd be lovely to see, but maybe not. I don't know.
Please no.
I mean, and sorry, I was going to say, Nathan, because you were asked about what's going on in general, and management is the thing. That's the big talking point at the moment, is the manager, and there is a big feeling that this result will decide his future.
Yeah, and just interestingly, there
is interesting.
It is, and it's going to be. He's had enough chances to change things and hopefully have some positive results. So it does feel like his last chance to try and get something positive on the board. I was going to ask, whilst you guys were saying that you've had threats from attacking corners, and that one of your defensive players is your top scorer. Southampton, kind of in my mind, the uneducated Saints watcher. You play this, really stubborn playing out from the back system that Russell Martin has really persevered with. How do you guys see? Do you see him ever adapting that now that it's going to be potentially a more scrappy game with two teams really struggling for confidence, or will he just continue going that way? I'll start with you, Zach, on that one.
Yeah, so me and Greg have had like a lot of discussions about it. Ultimately, he won't change his principles. We will definitely be playing out of the back, but like, we have changed the formation, we've changed the personnel, we've changed lots of things. Different games, like we've had substitutes be massive impacts for us, and in other games not so much, right? Like the subs in the Leicester game, me and Greg lamented horrifically because they are the reason, in our opinion, that we lost that game. But for me, it's that he is very, very stubborn about the way he's played, and he's made it abundantly clear he's not going to change up the style too much. We might change the formation here and there, but the principles remain the same. And a vast majority of our summer recruitment was done off of the basis of them coming in to play his style of football. Matisse Fernandez, who's been absolutely fantastic for us, was talking today, because obviously where he used to play for Sporting, and he was talking about how one of the main reasons he came to the club is because Russell Martin told him the way that we play football and the way that he wants to play football. It's not going to change. I think it's the players adapting to it at a much better league, and whether or not we're able to actually get that over the line. But I can't see a huge amount of tactical changes. I can't see a huge change in shape, if I'm totally honest. He seems to have kind of settled on a back three at the moment. But yeah, it's a bit it's difficult, but I don't see him changing any of the principles regardless of who we play against. We've tried to play similar styles against Stoke to Man City at this rate. Greg, are you the same?
Yeah, I think it's stubborn almost to a fault, right? And I guess in both of those examples you use, Stoke and Man City, it's what made it a lot more difficult for us. But yeah, I don't think we'll see much change. Like you say, we probably see a slightly more aggressive shape to try and put you on the back foot a bit more, but the style will remain exactly the same.
Yeah, and do you guys see the style as the main issue that you've had defensively, because you've been so stubborn at playing out from the back when you've made those mistakes? That's when other teams are capitalising on them, or have you had other weaknesses in sort of shape as well? Greg, I'll go with you there, mate.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit that, like we've given away a few goals from mistakes from exactly that, but I think it's mostly mentality and focus that we struggled with, like, because if it's not the ability to recover from a mistake like that, then it's always a daft set piece, or Bournemouth taking a quick free kick and tearing apart the entire defence with one through ball. Like, it's always something silly, never like seems to be completely outplayed.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, because Chris, we've been having the same similar issues with regards to our lack of concentration on set pieces, right?
Yeah. As we mentioned already, they are our downfall. It's our weakest point. I mean, we spoke ad nauseum about it this week. That is literally where all the goals come from. So, and they'll know. I mean, I'm sure the Southampton manager and coaches will know that if they can put bodies in the box for basically any set piece against us is like a direct free kick. It's that, it's that much of a possibility of a goal. It's a great opportunity. And if they get an early goal as well, the way that Molineux is at the moment, I mean, God, heaven forbid you guys score first. Molineux will honestly become rancid, because the vibes at the moment, for many people, they want many people think Gary O'Neill should have gone like 3 or 4 games ago. So the fact that the club have held on and he's still there, if it starts to go the wrong way this weekend, it'll be very easy for that stadium to become toxic, and then it's all going to fall apart. So the first goal of this game, more than any other, will decide very much, I think, the fate of how this game goes.
Yeah,
I know, Zach, you were holding out there for some sort of goal-scoring masterpiece and a 5-5, and you know that I love the little AI-generated blurbs on this Footy Stats website. But just to point out, it does say that Wolves' home form is very poor and Southampton's away form is very poor. So I'm not sure that sells the classic that you're holding out for.
No, it's not. It's the problem is that we suck at scoring goals as much as you do defending them, and that's kind of how it was with Everton last game. Like, we got out of jail free due to an amazing save by Ramsdale, a goal being disallowed by being inches offside, which it is what it is. It was ruled offside, and in the City game, if Haaland had actually been on target for about 6 or 7 more of the strikes he'd had, we would have probably lost 7-0, right? Like, that's no disrespect to the guys that kept in there, but it feels like, especially from the vibes we're getting from you two, almost like when we went down that season, like how important, and I think it is wild, because like, obviously we've had the heights one year of being 6th, 7th and playing Europa League football, and then within a flash we were back sort of fighting a relegation campaign, which every single result though, like once we'd kind of conceded to defeat, me and Greg have talked about it before, where everything became hoping that other people would lose points. It was like, rather than us ever seeing us actually win, it was hoping someone else would lose. But I think the big difference is, like, sometimes I can understand why you want like Gary O'Neill to go, but like with the season we went down was the season we had 3 managers, and I feel like as long as your recruitment does better than Nathan Jones, hopefully that would be a nice thing, right? But yeah, I didn't realize how, I guess, the pessimism. But then I suppose if you're an established team, and it is really surprising to see you guys down where you are, I guess it does suck, because we've been there too. But and I guess you had higher expectations, especially after last season.
Yeah, 100%. And before we continue talking, and I actually want to touch on your match winner from previous game, I just wanted to let everyone know here listening that here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more. So I wanted to ask a quick question on Adam Armstrong, who obviously got the winner in your previous game. He's a player that I've always kind of looked at back when he was at Newcastle, someone who's got huge potential. Sort of on the lines of your attacking force, who is a player that we should look out for? Is he off the back of that match winner? Do you think he will start, and do you think he will have big effect on the game, or who would you put your money on being the biggest threat?
Greg, who do you reckon? Because it's difficult to. That's the only part of the lineup I really struggle with now.
I think the obvious answer is Tyler Diblin, but I think maybe the less obvious answer, who I've been really impressed with, is Cameron Archer, who's he's managed to get on the score sheet a couple of times in the past few games, and really has the positioning and willing to run at defences, even if he's not getting the service, which he really hasn't been. So I think that if we can get a few more balls through to him, that he's the man to look out for, to be honest.
Yeah, I think maybe his style of play is something that our defenders, Chris, sort of as their profile, we're not necessarily, we don't have the most athletic defence. I mean, Dawson, who's running out of wheels, and the others. How do you think we'd sort of do defensively against a player like that who's so rapid?
I mean, it partly depends on the formation, right? Because the fastest centre back is Totti at the moment. Mosquera would have been a different deal. So yeah, because there's again, that's a big debate around Wolves at the moment, is back four, back five. I think, I mean, I thought last time he was going to go with a back four, and he ended up sticking with the five and then shifting it again partway through. I think he knows he's under pressure. I think he knows that this is a big deal. So if it's four at the back, and if it's Dawson and Bueno, who are fantastic, but they haven't got much speed, then we can get we've seen it. We can get opened up because they're not used to a back four system. So if that happens, if it's a back five, I'm not worried, because between the pace of Aït-Nouri, Semedo is usually hanging back from a lot of situations because he's got the legs at right wing back to cover certain scenarios. He makes up for some of that lack of speed in the middle. But if it's a back four, then it's a scary proposition.
You talked a bit about the sort of negativity at Molineux. Would playing a back five at home against a team that you probably feel like you should be attacking against instantly be perceived as a negative move, or do you think that would be seen as a step in the right direction?
I'm curious on Nathan's thoughts, but I think it's an interesting one because Gary O'Neill has wanted to play a back four since forever, and did it all pre-season and did it for most of the start of the season. But most of the fan base wanted a back five because under Nuno, when we had our success and most of our time established in the Premiership, the team has played really well under a back five system, and a lot of the players, even though a bunch have moved on, but it just seems like inherent in the DNA of the club that's the way they play well. And then whenever several managers have since Nuno have tried to shift into a back four, and it's always not worked. Like something's always gone wrong. Gary Neal's tried to stick stubbornly to it, and everyone's like, no, go up to a back five. And then, he did it last season. That's when we beat Man City, was when we shifted to a back five, and then stuck with it, and we got loads of results. This season, he's finally started to do a back five. He did it for Man City, and we did play better even though we lost. But at home, like you guys, I think, to be honest, I think he does have to go Hungo. I think we have to be aggressive. I think, the Wolves fans will expect to win this game, will want to win this game. Arguably, there's a small percentage of people that want them to lose, so he goes. I think genuinely that bad. There's some bad blood there, but people will want to win this and want them to be aggressive and go all in from the attack. I do. I want them to go and show that they're actually a better team than the rest of the Premiership at the moment is thinking they are, because there has been some bad luck. So I personally would like to see him do what he's been trying to do, go with the back four, put an extra person up front and just go be aggressive. We had a success last season by being really high press all the time, and being really pushing people back and forcing the mistakes, and knowing how you guys play out from the back and want to do that and have had flaws with that. It seems like it, whilst I think there's goals both ways because we can't defend for Toffee, I also think we've got the potential to if we are that aggressive with the press, we could really do something. That was a long-winded answer.
I completely agree with everything that Chris said there. I think the difficulty that Gary O'Neill's had is kind of goes back to recruitment, and we don't want to rewind too much, but he's got players that are best in a back five. Ultimately, I think Aït-Nouri is still a little bit immature defensively, so he always works better as a wing back. Dawson, with a lack of pace, he tends to do better in the centre of a back three when he can command the two centre halves around him. So it'll be interesting to see what he goes for. But yeah, he should. As a Wolves fan, we want to see a front foot performance. So four at the back would be the where it goes. You guys mentioned that you're most likely to go over back three. Our striker Strand Larsen, who's been a bit of a handful in the recent games, we've been quite impressed with him so far this season. Who would you guys identify as big threat from the Wolves side?
The obvious name that jumps out to me is Cunha, right? He's seems to have been hitting the ground running with all sorts of assists and goals all over the place from what I see. Is that sort of the vibe you get as well, or is he a bit sort of spotty for you guys?
I would, he's blatantly out. If he got injured, I think that would be our season definitely over, to be honest, because I think pretty much everything runs through him right now. Strand Larsen's creating some he's scoring goals when he gets opportunities, but he is very much a front man. Cunha is the link, the one that can drive from deep and really make things happen with his pace and his dribbling. So as well as scoring goals, he creates opportunities. So I think Cunha is definitely he's a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah, he's been when he's on form, and he's one of those players, and we spoke about it prior to the Palace game last week. He's one of those players that can really lift the team when he's running with the ball, drawing fouls, driving at defenders. He really lifts the sort of standard of play of the players around him. I also actually wanted to ask a question briefly to you Saints guys on the sort of midfield battles that will be going on Saturday afternoon. I think Wolves, that's one of the areas of the pitch that we have the most depth and arguably quality as well. Is it something that you think Russell Martin will want to maybe add an extra man into that midfield to kind of compensate for that?
I don't know, because we've had this debate over the last couple of weeks where he went through a little period of time where he's playing two defensive midfielders to deal with those sort of situations, where he's playing Downs and Ugachukwu together, and it just didn't work. It didn't work at all. They kept losing each other, they kept losing the ball. It was bad. So essentially, we ended up switching back to just having Downs at the back. Ugachukwu came in for the Stoke game and did all right, but I think that he would go to having Downs at the back. I don't really think that we will move that much around. If I'm totally honest, they will be reliant on how solid Jan Bednarek and Taylor Harwood-Bellis have been at the back, I think, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, Stevens might be able to maybe mop some stuff up. But I think that your points around trying to attack us when we make those silly mistakes is the thing that scares me, because we have made so many of them. It is terrifying to watch. It is not fun football to watch. It's nice when we're scoring, but it's the midfield thing does worry me a little bit. But I still think that he'll just persist with, I don't think Lallana will play. I think you'll have Joe Aribo, who's a strong guy. I think you'll probably continue to sort of back up where Downs is in the middle. I don't know if you have any different opinions, Greg. We've not really talked about the match ahead of the weekend other than on here yet. So sort of similar. Do you think it's going to change much?
Yeah, I think it's taken us a long time to find a midfield that we're comfortable with, and I don't think he's going to mess with it too much. I think from what I'm hearing, Lallana's actually out with a groin injury and is probably going to miss the game on Saturday either way. I think other than that, he would probably be our first choice, but Aribo seems to be slotting in just as well, and honestly, he's probably been unlucky to miss out. But yeah, I think that three of Aribo, Fernandez, and Downs in the middle just seems to be the winning formula for us. So I don't see it changing, even with the threat of your strength in midfield. I think that Russell Martin's probably headstrong enough to think that we'll just play around it.
Yeah,
You're right. That is exactly how that's going to play out.
Chris, I actually wanted to also get your thoughts on. We've obviously weeded Tommy Doyle into the fold over the last few games. Do you think Gary O'Neill will go with him? I don't know if, in my mind, he seems like sometimes it seems like a bold choice because he doesn't bring the physicality that the others bring, but sometimes it's a nice balance. What do you think?
I would make creative formation to fit him in there. I don't think he will. I think he'll go back on the bench for this one if Lamina is fully fit. I think given Lamina's second half performance against Palace and being captain, I think he'll come back in place of Doyle. And even if he goes with his three across the mid, if he goes with three across the middle, then maybe he'll squeeze him in like Lamina, Doyle, and Gomez. But if it's the holding two and then other people up front, then no, I think it'll just be like Gomez and Lamina.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think he would probably go maybe more defensive in the midfield and have Tommy Doyle on the bench as an option to come on if we are potentially a goal down. But I don't really want to think about that. And we'll come on to predictions.
It seems like an age ago, but actually the last time we played, Lamina got a red card and led to a famous soundbite from Nathan Jones after you then went on to beat us, saying that it was hard to play against 10 men anyway. So
I was thinking about the same. I'm glad that Lamina found a place in the Premier League for him, put it that way, because it certainly wasn't with us, and he thought he was going to go and play ball at Manchester United immediately afterwards. I will still never forget his montage of I know what I deserve and I shall get it, and then went off and ended up playing for Fulham.
Wow. Yeah, he's come full circle. Like now, like he, and he talks himself about how the fact he was arrogant and stupid and that kind of stuff, and he seems to have been away and grown up a bit. And now, hence, he was made captain in the summer because last season he was fantastic. But yeah, I think Doyle will be back on the bench. My poor, sad Sarabia will probably be back on the bench as well, which makes me very, very miserable.
Yeah, I'm not Sarabia's biggest fan, so I'm on the other end of the spectrum there, Chris.
I think he was hard done by. I think he was hard done by.
Before we talk about Sarabia's woes, I just wanted to let everyone know that this podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day. Now, I guess this is crunch time. I want to get some predictions and a feeling from everyone on how we think the game's going to go come Saturday. I'm going to start with yourself, Greg. How do you see this one playing out, and what would be your score prediction?
Yeah, well, I don't think that so far this season I've predicted Saints to lose, so I don't think we're going to start now. I like the optimism of it being a goal fest, but I just don't see it happening. I think it's probably going to be a fairly scrappy 2-1 win for us.
Oh, okay. Chris, do you agree?
I don't agree. What do you want my full prediction now, or am I just going?
Yeah.
Whether
Full
I agree
prediction,
or not?
the whole shebang.
Okay. I'll give you what I want and what I think will happen. What I want is obviously a nice, clear, proper performance with a 2-0 win or something for Wolves. However, I dread to say it, but I fear it has the criminality of a really horrible, nasty watch of a 1-1 draw stuck to it. Like the most horrific annoying, stressful, anxious, both sides anxious, 1-1 draw, and Wolves obviously that will make Molineux a horrible place, and and then who knows what will happen.
Both tap-ins as well, presumably. Nothing like
as
goals, maybe.
Yeah,
it'll be obviously it'll be a set piece against us. That's how it's been pretty much all season. And as who knows, as will be a beautiful team goal. Actually, it'll be the one moment because we play well for like 20 minutes and then that's it.
Yeah, Zach, what about yourself? Are you on the draw? 5-5 draw was it? Was that the initial prediction?
Yeah, so that's always optimistic. Mine wildly change, and then I usually have a heart and a head. But for once, I think as the Saints first, Greg, me and you actually have the same score prediction. And I kind of think with going off of the back of how well we played last time round, hopefully they've got a bit of a sniffle goal. I feel like you'll probably score first, and I think that it's about time that they showed that after going a goal down, we can actually come back and win. And I could easily see Archer potentially getting one, and Fernandez is finally due a goal as well because he's played phenomenally for us so far this season. And I think that just judging by your mood around camp, it's very much the mood of our relegation season. Now, I really genuinely don't hope that happens to you guys. I've always had like a weird soft spot for Wolves back from the FIFA days when you were sponsored by Doritos. For some reason, always a team I played, probably because you were orange and I was young. But yeah, that's ever since those days. But I can just see that like we've got the confidence there, but it also could easily play out as a 1-1 draw, which I don't think anyone wants, right? So I have to be optimistic for Greg.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't hold the lead right now, so I can see that happening.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm completely delusional with all of my predictions anyway. So similar to Greg, I'm just going to keep going with it. I think it's going to be a 1-0 win to Wolves, to the Doritos. Yeah. I don't know how much I believe it, but it's in my hopes. It's in my hopes and dreams. So that's my prediction. Speaking it into reality. So yeah, you've heard it here first. Those are our predictions. I think it would be funny if it did end up in a 5-5. Not so much for our negative goal balance, but hey, are there any more thoughts, guys, on the game before we wrap things up? Any final shouts?
For me, only that I heard a few people saying recently that what's happening to us at the moment kind of reminded them of Southampton when they went down previously in terms of the way that, because we're trying to be this self-sustaining club and like selling the big guns and bringing in younger players and then building them up and selling them on, but it's not working, because they're not necessarily bringing in players that can go straight into the lineup. And whilst there is experience in the squad, you're selling some of the key assets, and the club doesn't want to spend certain amounts of money on certain types of players and all this kind of vibes. And so I've heard echoes of similarities, and I don't know if that rings a bell. Zach's nodding, so for anyone listening, but
from my perspective, it's the reason I say it feels like it's very similar to our relegation season is the stuff you're talking about, how you've got a bunch of players that still haven't shifted from a manager they've had since way back when, except we tried to do that with 3 managers in about a space of about 3 months. And like Nathan Jones, as much as we're not big fans of him, his biggest criticism of the club and his time was that he tried to make them play a different way of football. They basically said no, and he went, well, I give up then. And then we had Ruben Sellis in for the rest of that season trying to play Hassanbul light, and it didn't work out at all. And as much as we have a stubborn play style now, we actually have a play style. And I just hope that for the rest of the season you guys are able to figure it out, whether that's under a new manager or not. And I think hopefully the players can adapt or move on, because I'm pretty sure since the last time we played you, we've got about 3 players left, and that says all you need to know.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that we all my fingers are crossed, toes are crossed, everything's going on here.
Look, I think that all 4 of us are unanimous, right, that we just hope that Everton and Man United take up the 2 relegation spots with Ipswich, and we'll all laugh at the end of the season.
Absolutely.
It's over me.
To be honest, that's probably the best way to leave it there today, guys. So it's been an absolute pleasure having yourselves on, Greg and Zak. So that will be it from us today, and best of luck for the game on Saturday. And we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.